Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Valentine's Month, February Veterans Memorial Island Sanctuary Committee meeting. And I'd just like to say it's great to be back here in Vero Beach and not in Maryland. And I'm thankful for everybody that covered for me while I was away. So with that, Ken, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next order of business is the approval for the minutes of last month in January. This was provided to all of the committee members via email. So are there any recommendations for changes for the 7th of January minutes as they were published?
Make a motion, we approve.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. It's carried unanimously. Next point of business is audience participation, and I see the city staff here, but I would just like to invite anybody that would like to attend these meetings. It's the first Wednesday of every month, and you're more than welcome here. We've got a good group, and we're always interested in public input. So new business. There's a celebration for life this afternoon, and I'm going to let Curtis speak to that. So, Curtis.
Yes, it's a celebration of life for Charlie Cox. As you all know, Charlie passed away not last Friday, but the Friday prior to that on the 23rd. So we were going to have planning to have a birthday party for him, but due to the circumstances, we decided to go ahead and just have a celebration of life and still celebrate everything that Charlie's done, you know, for Indian River County. So, and for the veterans, that's the main thing. So we're going to have a nice, we're going to have Dolores Chambers singing. We're going to have some 21 gun salute. We're also going to have a bugler there that's going to play taps. And then we're going to have about 6 or 7 speakers that are going to speak on Charlie's behalf for all the things that he's done, and for not only for the county, but for the veterans also. And we, the Vero Beach veterans will be hosting it, which will start at 3 o'clock. I was going to say 1500, 3 o'clock. And we have our regular meeting there. So try not to get there too much earlier than 3 o'clock, because we have another meeting that we're having prior to that for the Veterans Council. Right. And there will be a luncheon afterward, immediately following Charlie's ceremony.
Right. For those that were not able to attend Charlie's funeral, that was over at Cox Gifford last week, this is just another opportunity for the veterans and anyone else that would like to come and just recognize a man that has contributed as a veteran and as a local, I would say, steward. He felt a lot of care and affection for Vero Beach and for veterans, and it was reflected in his life. The Exchange Club honored him last month on their quarterly meeting. And just to show you a typical reaction of Charlie, he was so gracious that he said, you know, he's been given a lot of different various awards, et cetera, but just simply the gesture by the public to ask him to come and recognize an old CB was meaningful. And the year before, when we asked him what he wanted for his birthday, he says, "Could you get flowers for my wife?" I mean, that, you know, it's all selfless. So if you can come, the Vero Beach Veterans is behind the Veteran Services Office on 15th Avenue, and it's very informal, but you're more than welcome.
There's going to be a lot of military uniforms there, though, also for the Veterans Council. So if you can, you know, wear your military garb. Unfortunately, I have a meeting, but I will be in red, white, and blue when I arrive.
Amen.
I liked Colonel Wheeler's comment at the funeral, or at the funeral home, that when I grow up, I want to be like Charlie Cox.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was not able to go to the funeral service at Cox. And as I think about Charlie Cox, I think, Charlie Cox was a vigorous gentleman. And he lived a long and productive life as he touched many lives in his chosen ways of life. His influence will be felt by many in the generations to come. And we are all enriched and richer because he came our way. He was a special gentleman.
Amen.
Without a doubt. So Charlie's family, we appreciate you sharing them with us. So thanks. Okay. And one other item of new business came up that wasn't able to be added to the agenda. We have a request for use of Memorial Island. Is that? And Rob, you want to speak to that real quickly?
Right, I think you have to have approval from your group to have that on your agenda, but it's the Indian River County Victims' Rights event that they do every year, and they've been doing it for decades over on Memorial Island. They just had requested April, again, like they always do.
Okay. All right. Thanks. And we'll get that signed. Any questions by the committee in regards to the event? It's an annual event. It's how many people came last year? Have any idea?
They get around 100.
Okay. All right.
This is certainly an annual event, and they've been doing it and doing a good job. So is this the time that we need to approve this, or is that right, Rob?
Okay.
Yes.
Can we do so? Well, then I would so move that the request for the Indian River County Victims' Rights Coalition to have their annual service on the island on April 23rd, 2015 would be approved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. It's motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It's carried unanimously. Very good. Okay. Moving to old business. There was some work done in regards to the Pearl Harbor Monument restoration. Nanette, you want to talk to that?
Hi. I'm just looking at Don's email. He had sent out to get the quote for getting all of the information on one plaque. And it looks like he was still waiting to hear if they could do 2 more rows, but the quote came back as $14.12 with shipping, $1,412
Okay.
and 80 cents.
Okay. And Rita, did the motion go to the city council yesterday for approval?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It was approved.
Okay. And so they've approved that. The question there, I guess, for the council, the Veterans Council has gone out and asked if there are any other individuals, Pearl Harbor survivors, and I don't have a status on that. Do you have any idea?
I've tried to spread the word. In fact, I was on Rhett Palmer's show about that, and he's a patriotic guy and helping us to spread the word. But I don't know I'm not able to track down any personally. I don't know of any, but we're continuing to spread the word to see if there are more survivors of Pearl Harbor in the area.
Okay.
I think the ones that are on there were actually members of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association, and not just members of, not just people that were at Pearl Harbor. So I don't know, can we add them to what was an organization? They were members of that Pearl Harbor Survivors Association that
Right.
dedicated to that.
Right. And that's something that needs to be explored. I think what I would we could look at is a decision needs to be made on whether we would like to combine. Right now there's the large one on the top, and then there's a small rectangular one with 2 names, and then there's another one with 10 names below that. What was passed out on the email is a consolidation of all of the names by Don.
Right.
And that would encompass all of the names. And Nanette, the only change on that I noticed when I was going through it this morning is there's a fellow, Nunzio.
It's supposed to be BO. He's got the change here.
Right, okay.
And then
good.
Carl,
What was the other?
the right next to it to the right, Carl, it's Pettek, not R. Is that he's made
EK,
that change?
Okay. I didn't catch that, but I did see that the other yesterday. Okay. So from the council's review of this, do you think it would be appropriate for us to consolidate as reflected here, or do you want to retain the three separate? One is 57, one is 2, and one is 10.
I like the idea of combining them to one plaque on the top that's been
Okay.
finished.
I thought
Does
that's
this
kind of
email
what we
reflect
decided
that?
last time.
Is the estimate is to refinish what exists there, or are they going to make
New.
making a new plaque? Okay.
Right, yeah. And from what I understand from Don and Nanette, correct me if I'm wrong, he said that additional, like 3 names could be added without modification of it. If it was more than that, and I'm still waiting to see if there's any, we would have an extra row, but other than that, or it's change in font size.
Right.
But with that, do we want to have a motion to retain it as is, or do we want to, if we have identified survivors, to include those names if there's not more than a half a dozen, which would affect the price? What do you think?
Only one I was.
This
excuse me.
has already been approved
Right, the
to
purchase.
to purchase it, but it's also been approved to with all the names,
Okay.
and the chances are, if we haven't found new people between now and the time this plaque is actually done, that we're not going to find them unless it's somebody who moves into this county. And that, I don't think, is what we had in mind. So I'm wondering if we just should stick with what we've already approved and what the city council's already approved.
Wasn't this one kind of grandfathered in that now we don't allow individual names on memorials? They were grandfathered in because
Yes.
they were before the ordinance. So, and adding new, I agree with what you're saying.
So it would seem to me that we would just, we've had
Proceed.
the discussion a couple of times, let's just move on and try with the press and everything, as you talk to Rhett, if we can find some that are residents, I'm not sure.
Well, and I think that we're kind of doing two things. One is we want to honor the World War II veterans and maybe specifically Pearl Harbor veterans if we find them on Memorial Day, but not necessarily, because would we put everybody who was at Pearl Harbor, suppose there are a list of deceased, people who have moved here and passed on that were in Pearl Harbor but weren't here when they joined the service, so this ordinance. So I agree with you.
So.
The ones that are there
So.
get to move forward and
Yeah.
leave it at that.
I would think so.
Okay, I think that's what we're
And
doing.
that was what was approved also.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I think you should
That
move.
okay?
I believe
Yes.
so too. You start messing. Yeah, we just.
All right, so the understanding of the committee is that this has been approved and that we will consolidate the names onto that one and then proceed to have the new pedestal built and then that new renovated marker bronze added to it. And
Okay.
that also includes the circle, which is the
Yep.
the emblem of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association.
Correct. And that's going to be sent out for refurbishing.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the $1,157.80 cost?
Yes, and then you have to add the cost for the pedestal.
So that's what brought it up to the
That's what
14.
brings it up to
It's
1,400.
13.
It was
85 bucks.
$13.97.80, and then he added $15 for shipping.
And then and speaking with Don, he said basically the amount over 1,400, because it was only approved at 1,400.
Yeah.
They can manage
Take care of-
that
take care of the
within,
pennies.
yeah. Okay?
Okay.
One question. What will they do with the old plaque when they take it off? You're going to send it back to be reused or smelted down, or
What would you
are
like
gonna
us to do with it?
do? Oh, make sure it does not end up in the hands of an individual.
Correct.
That's why I'd like to see it if it can be sent back.
Well,
I
with
think
the
we just-
cenotaphs, I thought he got those. He took them to a scrap dealer and got money for what was left.
Yes,
That's
I
what he
think
did
they-
with the
I think-
cenotaphs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but if they do that, I want to make sure that they are in
It's
fact,
melted down. Right.
well, or broken up or destroyed, so we don't see 10 years from now. Oh yeah, I got something from Memorial Island. You
Gotcha.
look at the house, and there it is in the backyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the, we're still looking for, if there are Pearl Harbor survivors in the area, we would like to honor them Memorial Day, or so Rhett spreading the word, and even us spreading the word now, we're still looking for some that may have moved into our community after they retired or whatever, but won't be on the memorial, but we would still like to honor them.
Okay.
That would cover it.
And there's enough room on the bottom, you said, for
3 more.
3 more names? Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And Barb, that number, the 1157, that was without the refurbishing of the circular plaque. So that
Okay.
was added on. That's why it got
Yeah,
bumped
because
up.
I was going by this. It said
Yes.
include shipping and a 20% blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
The Pearl Harbor emblem is what,
Shipping extra, okay. Thank you.
and refinishing, yeah.
Thank you.
Did they give you any time frame on making it and delivering it? Were you in the
You know, I
ballpark?
don't know what company he's dealing with. Typically, when these kind of things are being made, it's 4 to 6 weeks. It's kind of big. It may be a little bit longer. Yeah.
So it hopefully will be in place by Memorial Day.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It should be. Yeah.
Okay, very well. The next point of business there was, the lest we forget, restoration, monument restoration. That was discussed last week, and Donna, my understanding is he's still waiting for additional.
Yes, we've got 2 more estimates that are coming. One came back at 7,000 and change, so we're waiting for a couple more because that was quite high. Yeah.
Yeah.
The concern there was, if you look at the old image of the cross, the cross itself is beveled,
And that's
and
what's,
that's what caused the additional cost for that.
it's a specialty cut.
So if they went to a simpler design, and I can pass that down, it would reduce the cost. And then the other part was looking at other
You've seen this?
restoration folks. So,
Same one we've seen.
so
It's the
Okay.
same one we've seen.
yeah, right,
We had-
exactly. Okay. And so we'll know more next month.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. Any other discussion on that? All right. And the trash receptacle by the Coast Guard Monument.
Been replaced.
It looks awesome. Yeah, I was there yesterday. I went
Good.
out there, and it's finer than frog fur.
I haven't heard that one.
That's a new one.
Okay. Okay, so all of those things are looking great. Nanette, I just wanted to let you know that the palm tree that replaced the one on the way to the cenotaph looks good. Hopefully it'll stay healthy.
Unfortunately, there's another one that's passing away.
On the other side,
I think it is on the other side. It's that fungus. It's working its way through. Unfortunately, it's doing that all over the city. Queen palms are highly susceptible,
right, right.
and there isn't any cure.
Okay. All right, very good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on the order is Chairman's Matters. Every month, each week, the Veterans Council highlights an individual. And I liked what you did last week, ma'am, with each individual reading one of them. So what I would like to do, if everybody has a copy of, does everybody have a copy of this?
No.
Okay. I'll show
Oh,
you.
yeah.
John did Henry Morgan on the radio, and so would you read his, John? You got that in front of
I do. Is it? Is he in this?
you? It's highlights on the first page.
First page.
It just doesn't have his name on it.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is that
It's on the front. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that was, that we did that last time, but I did it on the radio, but not here, so.
Right. And then Curtis, if you would do Bixon.
Sure.
And then Barb, if you would do Will Hoyt, on page 2. And then Ken, if you would do Raymond Knight.
Oh, this is the same guy I did on the radio, too.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds familiar.
Okay.
So this is for a aviation machinist mate, second class, Henry Taylor Morgan. He was United States Navy, born August 3rd, 1921, into the 12th of April, 1942, or I guess that's when he was in the Navy. He was highlighted on January 6th by me. It would be good if we got a chance to read these ahead of time, wouldn't it? Excuse me for stumbling here. This is not my favorite thing to do either. Henry Taylor Morgan's is on Cenotaph column C, row 5. I don't know if we need his service number. In 1935, the Florida State Census indicated his family living in North Vero Beach. At the time, he was the youngest of 4 boys with a younger sister. His father, George H. Morgan, was a farmer. His mom, Violet, was a deputy circuit court clerk. Henry was in junior high school at the time. U.S. World War II Navy muster rolls record him beginning as a crew member on the USS Quincy. He enlisted on September 20th, 1939. John would have been 18 at that time. He came aboard the Quincy on December 8th, 1939. The Morgan family moved to Port Washington, Florida around 1940. The USS Quincy was a heavy cruiser built in the town of Quincy, Massachusetts. She was commissioned in 1936. The ship was part of the neutrality enforcement in the Atlantic before the U.S. entered World War II on December 7, 1941. A year and a half later, the Press Journal would announce his death off the coast of California. He was the second Vero Beach High School student to be killed in action. He was killed April 12, 1942. The Funiac Herald reported on April 23, 1942, that Henry was killed in the crash of 2 Navy planes at Livermore, California. At the time of his death, he was stationed in San Francisco. He is buried in the community cemetery near Panama City. Of note, all of his other brothers were serving in the Navy and in the Pacific at the time. In October 1943, the Vero Beach High School newspaper, The Blotter, included him as part of the 5 men in the Gold Star Honor Roll. By then, Indian River County casualties included Gene Evans, Henry Morgan, John Mixon, Charles Fuchs, and Charles Harlock. 4 of the 5 were sailors. In 1943, the Vero Beach High School yearbook, The Arrowhead, included Henry in memorandum. Thank you. The USS Quincy would be lost 4 months later after Morgan's death. While supporting the Marines landing on Guadalcanal, she was sunk in the Battle of Savo Island. Her hull was found in 1992 in 3,000 feet of water. The sunken wreck attests to the incredible naval battle. Henry Taylor Morgan lost his life at 20 years of age after serving in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. His memorial attests he died in defense of his country.
Okay, John Marion Mixon, U.S. Navy, 1923 to 1941. Seaman Second Class John Marion Mixon, Cenotaph column C, row 10. U.S. Navy service number 0269753, was born July 26, 1922. The 1930, 35, and 1940 federal and state census reflected Mixon's living in Vero Beach. Willie and Eugenia were his parents. John's father worked for the City of Vero Beach. John, the eldest son, had 3 sisters and 2 younger brothers. In 1941, he graduated from Vero Beach High School. The following year, he enlisted in the Navy. He completed his basic training at Norfolk, Virginia, and the Armed Guard School. He was attached to the U.S. Army transport ship, Jack. The 2,662-ton vessel was requisitioned by the U.S. Warshipping Administration and used by the U.S. Army's Transport Service. On May 27, 1941, it was attacked and sunk by a German submarine 100 miles southwest of Port Salut, Haiti. It was en route unescorted from Puerto Rico to New Orleans. On June 5th, his father received a Western Union telegram informing him that his son was missing. Seaman Second Class Mixon was a sight setter for a gunner. Lieutenant Junior Grade Albert Lind would report on June 6th that of the 63 aboard, a possible 29 survivors aboard a life raft or floating debris. Lind was the officer in charge of the gun crew. 16 men would be picked up by the American submarine USS Grunion on May 31st. Seven others would spend 32 days adrift before being rescued. Unfortunately, John and 4 others were lost, as was the ship's master. The lieutenant stated that Jack was attacked at 4:48 a.m. while running full speed and maneuvering to avoid being hit. He noted the conduct of the gun crew, consisting of 4 Army and 8 Navy men, was of the highest order. They fought tenaciously with their 3 machine guns and 4-inch gun to repel the U-boat. This was the 3rd encounter with enemy subs. Previous fire had driven off the German attacks. Lieutenant Lind recommended that all personnel be commended for their courage, loyalty, and unanswering devotion to duty. At 19 years old, after 5 months of service, John Mixon gave his life protecting the nation. Like Gene Guy Evans, he was killed in action by a German submarine. The 1943 and 44 Vero Beach High School yearbook, the Arrowhead, would honor him in memoriam. The East Coast Memorial in New York City also would recognize his sacrifice. The U.S. Army transport Jack sank 2 minutes after being torpedoed. 37 aboard were killed. John Marion Mixon was among them, claimed by the sea. He is a legacy for all to emulate.
Ensign Barbara Graves Wilhoit, U.S. Navy, 1924 to 1945, was highlighted on January 20th by Pat Geyer. Barbara Graves Wilhoit, Cenotaph, column F, row 8. Ensign Barbara G. Wilhoit, U.S. Navy, was reported by the Press Journal on July 27, 1945. He was being killed when his fighter crashed into Puget Sound. Like some of the men that were assigned to the Vero Beach Naval Air Station, he lost his life in service to his country. Flight operations were hazardous. Navy records from the Pensacola Naval Air Training Center reflect Ensign Barbara G. Wilhoit's U.S. Navy Reserve becoming a naval aviator on November 2, 1944. He was inducted into the Navy on April 10, 1943, and went through operational training in Sanford, Florida. He was based at the Naval Auxiliary Air Station in Alexandria, Washington. He also had instructed aerial gunnery at the field in Kingsville, Texas. Barbara was born July 29, 1923. His father was Curtis Graves, C.G. Wilhoit, born in Virginia in 1893. His mom was Homicell Wilhoit, born in Virginia in 1895. The family was living in Wabasso during the 1930 U.S. Census. In the 1940 U.S. Census and 1945 Florida Census, they resided on 34th Avenue in Vero Beach. He was an only child. Barbara graduated from Vero Beach High School and attended the University of Florida for a year. The 1942 UF yearbook records his youthful fraternity photo. Bob was part of Sigma Nu. CG would pass in September 1968. Homicell would die August 18, 1976. Both still resided in Vero Beach.
Second Lieutenant Raymond F. Knight, U.S. Army Air Corps, 27 Feb. 1919, 24th August 1944, was highlighted on 27 Jan by Eric Menger. Lieutenant Knight, serial number 0-744532, Cenotaph, column D, row 5, was part of a B-24 bomber crew that was shot down over Germany in August of 1944. Raymond's family is found in the federal and state census in the 1920s all the way through 1940 in Vero Beach. He was the second eldest son. His dad was Albert W. Knight. Raymond graduated from Vero Beach High School and completed a year at the University of Florida. A photo of him is in the 1939 yearbook as a freshman. He was a good-looking fellow, very professional in appearance. He enlisted in the Army in May 1941 in Orlando. He entered into the Army Air Corps. At the time, he was single, 5'11", and 168 pounds. Raymond would attend flight school and be commissioned. He was the bombardier aboard B-24 Liberator bomber. He flew with the 715th Bomber Squadron, 448th Bomber Group, 8th Air Force. His unit flew out of Royal Air Force RAF Base, Seething. Their strategic missions included a host of targets: aircraft factories, ball-bearing plants, airfields, U-boat facilities, and oil refineries. Sorties flown just prior to his death included hitting key transportation nodes and interdiction for D-Day operations. And in July of 1944, the squadron supported Allied breakthrough at Saint-Lô, France on August 24, 1944. His aircraft, serial number 42-19582, was shot down during a bombing mission of Brunswick in North Germany. The missing aircraft report, based on German documents, states that the bomber exploded in the air, and parts came down over a mile radius. And eyewitnesses from his outfit told that just after bombs away, his aircraft went into a spin. He did not see it pull out, nor did he see any parachutes. This was Lieutenant Knight's 20th mission. Somehow, there were 4 survivors. Raymond and 5 others would perish. 3 were killed immediately. The pilot, co-pilot, bombardier, ball-turret gunner, plus the top and nose gunners died. The other crew members were taken prisoner and placed in a German prisoner of war camp, POW, camp near Wetzlar. The casualties were buried there following the end of war. Raymond's body was returned to the States. He was buried in Vero Beach at the Crestlawn Cemetery on July 19, 1949. Raymond was killed in action at 25 years of age. He played an important role in the victory over Nazi Germany. Without the Air Force, the ground forces would never have succeeded. A quarter of the flight crews never returned. Each mission was a gamble, but the risk was worth the reward. 8 months following his death, Berlin would fall. Our fate laid in the hands of those like this veteran from this coastal Florida town, tucked far away from embattled Europe. Their accounts stand as a testimony of the character of the American in the last World War. Lieutenant Knight's cenotaph is a reminder we should never forget.
Thank you. Thank you. I know that takes a little bit of time, and I appreciate everybody reading this cold, and I'll do better next time to get it in advance. But what's of note is now, with as much that is being digitized, you can find out the details. And, you know, it's interesting, like in Raymond Knight's account, there are both the German reports, because the Germans kept meticulous records, and the American flyers report of what happened. And over Christmas, there's a new book called Vanished, and it was written about a B-24 bomber that went down in the South Pacific, and there were a lot of American Army Air Force bombers that were lost as the Marines were trying to take the islands. And this doctor spent 20 years trying to identify this prop that he found when he was diving in the water, because he saw the prop and he said, well, I wonder what the rest of the story is. And as it turned out, it grew from 1 bomber to 3 bombers, and then a bunch of fighters as well that were in there trying to secure the island for the Marines and the advance. And it made me think of these men out on Memorial Island, because it's not just the story of the men, it's the story of their families as well. And, you know, the sniper movie on television kind of reflects that. You know, it impacts the rest of their lives, the rest of their families. So thank you for taking that.
My father was Army Air Corps in the Second World War and survived the war and flew on a B-17. And my father died a few years ago, but when his ashes were interned at the National Cemetery near Palm Beach, his and my mom's ashes are actually in B-17.
Oh, wow.
Which we didn't pick. It just turned out that way. So he's he'll be in a B-17 forever.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
You know, these resumes are so interesting, and this particular selection you have today, I knew 3 of these men,
did you?
and I've known their families.
Yeah.
Especially the Will Hoyts, Moselle and Graves, and Raymond Knight's family,
Yeah.
his brothers, and there's, I think most of them are gone, but he's got a lot of nieces and nephews that are still right here in this committee, and the same thing with Mixon, the Mixon family. Oh my goodness! In fact, I see a relative of his almost once a week. So it's and I really appreciate the efforts that were done in order to bring this information, and the fact that you all are going ahead with a program of presenting it to the community.
Well, I just want to say thanks to Bob Seuss, because he said, when the Veterans Council comes each week and talks about what you're doing, could you talk about what are the veterans out on the island? And I said, oh, sure, we'll be glad to do that. So anyway, an additional point, I did get a note from Don. Ruth Stanbridge said that the State Historical Division is here in town for the coming next 2 weeks. And they're going to be removing the historical marker out on the island for repair, because if you looked at it closely, there was a crack that was kind of down on the left bottom side, and over the length of time, the crack has progressed. So they're going to replace that. And Ruth sent a note back, and Don wanted to know what the timeline would be, and she said that they'd ask for it to be done as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's there. Okay. I think that's all I have. Members' matters. Barb? None? Not? John?
No, sir. Don't have anything extra. Any more?
Ma'am?
No?
1,500 Vero Beach veterans.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
One more
Remember
chance.
the celebration for Charlie this afternoon. Okay. That's all I have. A motion. We will meet next month on the 4th. So add that to your calendar, and if you can come, please do so. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.